At midnight, in an accessibility store, barely lit by active fluorescent lights, I watched a behemoth of a man in a battered Hell's Angels Accord beg a young cashier for milk he couldn't allow for his baby. It was the affectionate of arena that makes bodies about face away, and they did, every distinct one of them. But I couldn't. That biker with his patches and tattoos stood there clutching groceries in shame, advised by everyone in line. He didn't see me, aloof another homeless guy adhering a bargain cup of coffee abreast the annual rack. But I saw him and I knew what it acquainted like to be on that ancillary of the counter, desperate, out of luck. Agility, you are invisible. So I slipped my aftermost $8 across the counter, every distinct dollar I'd earned accession cans that week. And the attending in his eyes aback I did. Man, you can't affected that affectionate of gratitude. What neither of us knew was that someone had their buzz out recording, and when the Hells Angels came roaring into town the abutting morning, that tiny act, just $8 contraction dollars, would accord me back allotment of account I anticipation was gone forever. I assumption afore I get any deeper, let me aloof ask what time are you audition this? Area are you from? Go ahead, beat it in the comments. I want to apperceive who's out there tonight. Anyway, the night it happened, I'd been at Murphy's Bend Abundance back 11:47, just nursing that aforementioned old coffee. I move slow now. Careful. Try not to bother anyone. And that's how it's been ever since I absent everything. Back in the day, I was somebody in Demick Washington Hardware, Bend of Maple and Fifth, best damn hardware shop in 3 counties. Association came for acrylic and nails, but backward for the allocution, and maybe a duke-up back times were tough. My wife, Linda, kept the books. My boy Tommy sat abaft the adverse after school, handing out change with that crooked little grin. Hell, there were weeks I let association run tabs aloof because I knew they'd pay me back, and best of them did. But one fall I got a shipment of high-end ability tools. By morning half the boxes were gone. No broken locks, no bankrupt windows. Police came, insurance man came, but the whispers started anyway. Must accept been an inside job. Maybe Marcus bear the money. Maybe he was desperate. You apperceive how rumors spread? They're faster than truth and stick harder, too. In a month, regulars chock full advancing by. In 3, the coffer froze my band of credit. Within a year, my abundance was gone. My family gone with it. Linda and Tommy headed to Ohio. I accept you. Linda aside the day she left, but she still arranged up and absolved out. That's how fast a life can disappear, you know. So, 3 years on the street, I abstrused to break out of sight, slept abaft Murphy's most nights, best cans, did what I had to. And afresh on that Tuesday night, watching that biker, Jake, about in tears as the cashier's agenda clairvoyant kept abnegation a man. It was like seeing myself, aloof a younger, mean attractive version. The whisper started in line. He's probably stealing alarm security. Aforementioned old song. That's aback I stepped up and put my last $1 down. I've got it, I said, voice low. Abundance got absolute quiet, and Jay tried to advance the money back, but I told him, you can't booty it. Bodies stared, waiting for a fight, but I aloof stood there. You attending at him and see trouble, I said. You attending at me and see worthless. But how abounding of you would empty your pockets for a stranger. You could accept her to pin drop. That was the aboriginal time in years I'd aloft my voice in public, and I affirm I saw a few folks about face like maybe they were ashamed. Jake thanked me, handed me his business card, Miller's Auto Repair, told me he'd pay me back someday. I just smiled, slipped it into my abridged next to the abandoned amplitude area that aftermost $8 used to be. Neither of us knew that a teenage babe called Emma Rodriguez had filmed the accomplished thing and acquainted online with a simple caption. Homeless man gives aftermost $8 to advice drifter buy milk for his baby. By morning, her video was everywhere, actor views. Comments pouring in from bodies who saw themselves in me or in Jake or in that moment. Of course, there were trolls always or fake, apparently staged. But for every one of them, there were 10 saying things like, my acceptance in humanity restored. My dad was a man like this. And maybe there's still good left. But the wildest part, that video made its way to Big Mike Morrison, president of the Midwest Hells Angels. And say what you appetite about bikers, but they accept account, and what they saw was one of their own. Jake being shown absolute affection, aback the world wanted to abase him. Big Mike called an emergency affair, and by Aurora, 300 bikers were rolling into Detroit. I'll never balloon that complete like thunder that wouldn't quit. Engines rumbling, chrome bright in the sunrise. People poured out of houses to watch. Sirens wailed about far off. But those bikes didn't stop for trouble. They stopped for me. Jake was Aboriginal off his bike, calling out, "Morning, brother. Hope you don't apperception company." He handed me a set of blueprints, not for some grand gesture, but for a new Washington hardware appropriate on the lot area my old shop stood. Big Mike captivated up a deed. "Brother, we all chipped in. You get your store back. Not charity. Justice." It hit me so adamantine, I could almost speak. "You can't debris it either," Jake said, smiling like a kid. "We're aloof, giving back what was yours." What happened next? That alleyway angry into a construction site. Bikers, neighbors, alike folks who'd angry their backs on me came to help. Sarah Chun from the Abundance brought sandwiches. Mrs. Foster from beyond the street brought algid tea and an apology for never speaking up aback. She saw a stranger carriage boxes out of my shop all those years ago. Angry out. Maybe I wasn't crazy afterwards all. Tom, the store manager, handed me a Aegis deposit, and Rin said I could set up a hardware corner Central Murphy's anytime I wanted. Even Dr. Patterson came by, tears in his eyes, owning up to alert to the gossip instead of alarm at me for the truth. One by one, bodies anticipation I'd lost always started advancing back. But the best abrupt thing, all those bikers, every distinct one backward to help. They kicked concrete, affected walls, hauled lumber. Aback the anatomy was up. Big Mike handed me a vest. "Honorary Brotherhood family," it said. "You stood up for one of ours," he told me. "That makes you one of us forever." I slipped it on, and I affirmed for the Aboriginal time in 3 years, I acquainted like I belonged somewhere again. Aback the Abundance opened. It wasn't aloof about nails and hammers. It was about bodies advancing together, building aback what had been lost. Mrs. Foster started an association garden on the abandoned lot abutting door. Sarah got promoted. Tom started a pay-what-you-can lunch program. And Dr. Patterson set up a little lending library for home repairs. Alike the teenagers who acclimated to cut through my alleyway now came to learn repairs afterward school. Some aloof capital a place to be apparent and heard. Months passed, and business got better. I'd be lying if I said there weren't nights. I still woke up cat and mouse for it all to disappear. But every morning I'd open up, ambit the floor, and bethink what it was like to accept annihilation and be shown mercy. The day I absolutely believed it, though, was aback Linda absolved in. She looked older, sure, and Tommy taller with my eyes, and her buttons stood behind her. Not a little boy anymore, but young man aggravating to accomplish faculty of what he'd seen online. Mom said you congenital this place a backup from nothing. He said I had help. I told him, and I meant it. Turns out you can't do annihilation alone. Not really. Linda smiled and said maybe Ohio wasn't home anymore. Maybe home was wherever I was accommodating to angle up and do the appropriate thing. So, actuality, I am telling the story. And yeah, sometimes it's still adamantine to accept it all started with $8 and a moment area. I could have kept quiet but didn't. That's all it took. 8 channeled bills and the guts to say, "No, you booty it. You're worth it." Maybe that's all it any time takes to turn activity about a little courage, a little kindness, and the achievement that somebody out there will pay it forward. So, I'm alarm at you now. Aback was the last time you stood up for a stranger? When was the aftermost time you gave someone the account of the agnosticism instead of judging? Because sometimes what you do in the quietest moments aback you think nobody's watching is absolutely what the world needs most. Sometimes the smallest acts become the loudest echoes. And sometimes, aloof sometimes, you get a second adventitious to belong. If you've fabricated it this far, I appetite to apprehend your story. Hit like, allotment this with addition who needs a little achievement today. And, beat a comment. Tell me area you're alert from, and what additional affairs beggarly to you. Because trust me, you never apperceive whose activity you might change aloof by showing.